I never expected to walk into this when I came back home from school. I had thought the house would be all mine, but what I stumbled upon behind my stepmom's slightly open door left me utterly speechless. It was such a private moment, so unexpected, that everything I knew shifted in an instant. The unfolding events changed everything between us in ways neither of us could ever undo. Join me as I recount how this led to an unforgettable night. I just returned from school, still carrying the weight of the day like my heavy backpack. The house felt unusually quiet, with only the gentle hum of the refrigerator breaking the stillness. The late afternoon sun cast long, golden rays across the hardwood floor, creating a peaceful and serene atmosphere, as if I were completely alone. I tossed my backpack onto the couch, planning to grab a snack and relax before anyone else got home. But as I made my way to the kitchen, something halted me. A faint, unmistakable sound caught my ear. I froze, unsure of what I was hearing. It was soft, almost like a whisper or a hum, but it had an intimate, personal quality that piqued my curiosity. I listened intently, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound. It wasn't loud, but there was something about it that made my skin prickle with uncertainty. Moving slowly and cautiously, I crept down the hallway, my footsteps silent against the floor as I approached the sound. My stepmom's door was slightly ajar, just enough for me to see the edge of the bed and a sliver of the room beyond. I knew I shouldn't look. I understood better, but an internal urge drew me closer to that door, curiosity gnawing at me. I leaned in slightly, peeking through the crack, and that's when I saw her, my stepmom, lying on the bed. Her back arched slightly, and her eyes were closed in bliss. For a moment, I was too stunned to move. I stood there, frozen, my breath hitching in my throat as I took in the scene, my mind racing to comprehend what I was witnessing. She was touching herself, her fingers moving slowly and rhythmically, soft moans escaping her lips. The sight sent a shock through me, something deep and unfamiliar. My pulse raced, and my heart pounded in my chest as warmth surged over me. I knew I should quietly leave, to back away and pretend I hadn't seen anything. But I was paralyzed, rooted to the spot, my gaze locked on her, each small movement sending ripples through me. She looked stunning, incredibly so, moving with a natural, effortless grace. Just as I was about to turn away, she opened her eyes. Panic surged within me, thinking I had been caught, but instead of anger, she regarded me with a calm expression. Her gaze was soft, almost inviting. There was no shock, no fury, just a slow, smoldering look that sent tingles across my skin and made my breath catch. "Come in," she said softly, her voice low and warm. For a brief moment, I wondered if I had imagined it, but when I didn't move, she smiled that same inviting smile and repeated, "Come in," this time with more conviction. My legs seemed to move of their own accord, slowly bringing me into the room. With each step, my heart raced louder, a strange mix of fear and excitement swirling inside me as I stood beside the bed, gazing down at her. The tension between us was palpable. She didn't speak initially, simply continued to watch me with those deep, smoldering eyes that felt as though they could see right into my soul. I swallowed hard, attempting to articulate something, but no words formed. My mouth felt dry, and my thoughts were a tangled mess. She didn't seem to mind. Gently, she took my hand, her touch soft yet firm, pulling me closer. My heart raced, and a knot of nervousness tightened in my stomach. Yet there was also something else, an exhilarating sense of anticipation. As I sat beside her on the edge of the bed, she didn't release my hand. Instead, she guided it slowly down her body, over the soft curve of her hip. I felt her warmth radiate through my fingertips, and my breath hitched as she led my hand with a slow, deliberate motion. I could feel her pulse beneath her skin, the gentle rise and fall of her chest as she breathed. "Don't be afraid," she whispered, her voice barely audible but laced with tenderness, causing my heart to ache. "Just relax." I nodded, uncertain whether I was more nervous or excited. Her fingers entwined with mine, guiding me, teaching me as we moved together in perfect harmony. Each touch sent an electric jolt through me, and with every passing moment, I felt our connection deepening. But it was more than just a physical bond. It transcended that. Something personal felt like it was stretching time, the world outside fading into the background until only the two of us remained, sharing something that felt forbidden yet undeniably right. Each breath, each touch seemed to linger infinitely, the tension between us intensifying to an almost unbearable level. She drew me closer, her body pressing against mine, and I felt the warmth of her skin, her breath softly brushing my neck. Her lips grazed my ear as she whispered again, her voice gentle and urgent. "Stay with me," she murmured, her tone filled with quiet desperation that sent my heart racing. "Don't go." Even if I had wanted to leave, I found I couldn't. The attraction between us was too strong, the connection too profound. We were trapped in this moment, and nothing else seemed to matter. I leaned in, my lips just inches from hers, feeling the heat of her breath on my skin. Time appeared to freeze, the world holding its breath as we hovered on the brink of something undeniable. The air surrounding us buzzed with anticipation, sending delightful shivers coursing through me. Just as I thought the moment might slip away, she leaned closer, her lips brushing lightly against mine and igniting a wave of warmth that surged through my body. Initially, the kiss was soft and tentative, as if we were both gauging the waters, but it quickly evolved into something deeper. Her lips pressed more firmly against mine, her hands continuing to guide me, leading us both toward our unspoken desires. The kiss felt slow and tender, infused with a passion that was both overwhelming and gentle. It was as if all the emotions we had kept bottled up were finally pouring out in that single moment. Each caress, every breath, and each heartbeat seemed to synchronize as we surrendered to the mounting tension between us. We lingered like that, entwined in each other for what felt like an eternity. Everything outside vanished completely from my thoughts. I could sense her body quivering slightly against mine, the soft sound of her breaths creating a soothing rhythm in the space that separated us. Eventually, she pulled back just enough to rest her forehead against mine, her eyes half-lidded as she caught her breath. A faint smile flickered across her lips, one that radiated satisfaction and made my heart swell with emotion. "Are you all right?" she murmured, her voice soft yet filled with warmth, wrapping me in a sense of safety and care. I nodded, at a loss for words. She offered me another smile, her fingers delicately threading through my hair before leaning in once more, her lips brushing against my cheek before drawing back completely. The room was enveloped in a warm, tranquil calm. The earlier tension had morphed into a gentle, glowing contentment. For a long while, we remained silent, simply enjoying each other's presence as our breathing gradually steadied. The heat that had sparked between us transitioned into something softer and more intimate. She leaned her head onto my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her closer as we sat together in the fading light of the afternoon. The quiet sounds of the house enveloped us. Whatever this connection was, it felt new, delicate, and entirely unexpected. But at that moment, nothing else mattered. All that counted was our shared presence, experiencing something that felt incredibly special, something beyond our wildest dreams. For now, that was enough. The intimacy between us seemed to expand with every passing second. The sunlight streaming through the window began to dim, casting a soft amber glow throughout the room. Yet everything inside felt vibrant and charged. The significance of what had just occurred lingered in the air, and though we remained silent, it felt as if we were both suspended in an unresolved tension. I sensed her body relaxing against mine, but the way she nestled closer, her hand resting gently on my thigh, made it clear that whatever had begun between us was far from finished. My heart raced in my chest, a strange mix of exhilaration and nervousness flowing through me. I was acutely aware of her presence, her soft breaths, the warmth of her skin against mine, and the subtle fragrance of her perfume still lingering in the air. She tilted her head slightly, her lips brushing against the side of my neck, sending delightful shivers down my spine. The touch was featherlight, barely there, but it ignited something within me. A slow-burning desire flared up with every passing second. I closed my eyes briefly, letting the sensation envelop me, then turned my head to meet her gaze. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I noticed something different in her expression, something darker, more intense. The softness that had been there before remained, but beneath it lay a hunger that echoed my own. She didn't need to say anything. The way her fingers traced delicate circles on my leg communicated everything I needed to know. I leaned in again, capturing her lips with mine, this time without hesitation, without any doubts. The kiss deepened, becoming more urgent, as if the feelings we had both been holding back had finally burst forth. Her hands glided up my chest, fingers curling into my shirt as she pulled me closer, and I could feel her body responding to mine. The way her curves pressed against me made my head spin. Everything about this moment felt forbidden, yet that only made it more intoxicating. The fact that she was my stepmom, someone who had always seemed out of reach, made our connection feel even more perilous. I couldn't suppress my longing for more. Her hands moved to the back of my neck, drawing me down with her as she reclined against the pillows, guiding me along. I followed the irresistible pull between us, too powerful to resist, and soon I found myself hovering above her, my arms supporting me as I gazed down at her. I gasped for breath, my inhalations quick and shallow as I felt the heat radiating from her body. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her eyes locked onto mine, the intensity of our connection undeniable. She reached up, her fingers lightly tracing along my jawline before pulling me down again, our lips meeting in a fervent kiss. This time, her hands roamed freely, exploring my back and shoulders, drawing me closer until we were completely entwined. The warmth enveloping us was intoxicating, and I could feel her heart racing, mirroring the wild thumping of my own. As I let my hand glide down her side, I reveled in the softness of her waist beneath my fingertips. When I reached the hem of her shirt, I hesitated, uncertain if I was crossing a boundary. But rather than pulling away, she arched her back slightly, urging me on, her body responding in a way that made her desires unmistakable. With newfound courage, my fingers slipped beneath the fabric, and as I caressed the smooth warmth of her skin, a soft gasp escaped her lips, sending a rush of excitement through me. Her hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer as she deepened the kiss, her lips parting slightly, inviting me in. The taste of her was captivating, and I could sense the tension in her body, the way she moved beneath me. Each touch was imbued with urgency, drowning out everything else as we became lost in one another. All barriers melted away, and we surrendered to the longing that had simmered below the surface for so long. There was no going back. The gravity of that realization weighed heavily between us. Yet, neither of us cared. What mattered was this moment, this connection, this undeniable force drawing us together. Her hands traveled over my body, tracing my shoulders, arms, and chest, as if trying to memorize every inch. I felt the same desire. The more I touched her, the more I wanted. The intensity was overwhelming, like a dam bursting after a long drought. She moaned softly against my lips, her fingers tightening in my hair as she pressed her body closer, the sound igniting a fresh wave of need within me. I craved her taste, her scent, the sensation of her skin against mine. Every fiber of my being was ablaze, and I understood that there was no turning back. Pulling back for a moment, I searched her eyes, needing reassurance that she was still with me, still wanting this as fervently as I did. The look in her eyes answered my unspoken question. No hesitation, no doubts, only that same smoldering hunger urging us forward. Without uttering a word, she reached for me again, her fingers gripping my shirt and pulling me down to her with a soft, almost desperate urgency as our lips met once more. I let myself be swept away by the moment, casting aside all doubt and fear as I embraced the fire that had been igniting between us since I stepped into the room. The tension crackled with electricity, each kiss and touch drawing us closer to the edge. Her body moved beneath mine, her hands roaming over my skin as if she couldn't get enough, and the sound of her breathless gasps filled the air, driving me wild with longing. We were completely intertwined, consumed by the passion that enveloped us. I felt her fingers glide down my chest, sending shivers through me as she pulled me even closer, her body arching under mine, silently pleading for more. And I obliged, responding to her every caress, kiss, and whisper, plunging us deeper into the moment until we were lost in our own world. The intensity of it all was nearly overwhelming. The tension surged to a fever pitch as we lingered on the cusp of something profoundly deeper. But neither of us was ready to let go just yet. We savored every touch and kiss, the heat between us escalating to a point where it felt like we might burst from the sheer intensity of our connection. I could feel her trembling beneath me, her breaths coming in quick, ragged gasps as she clung to me, her body pressing against mine in a way that made my head spin. I knew she felt it too. The same unbearable tension, the same desperate craving for release. But we weren't there yet, not quite. We hovered on the brink, letting the anticipation build until it was nearly unbearable. The room resonated with our breathless gasps, whispered names, and the quiet urgency of our movements as we surrendered to the desire that had long simmered between us. This moment felt perfect, a rare connection as I held her close, our bodies moving together in a rhythm all our own. I understood that nothing would ever be the same after this. We had crossed into new territory, stepped into something forbidden, something exhilaratingly dangerous. But I didn't care, not anymore, because in that moment, as we teetered on the edge of something more, all that mattered was her. Her touch, her kiss, the sensation of her beneath me as we finally surrendered to the overwhelming intensity. I knew this was just the beginning of a journey neither of us had anticipated.